Welcome back, viewers and listeners. On today's show, we're joined by a company empowering physicians and patients to liberate themselves from the complexity of the healthcare system. That's Freedom Healthworks. You want to tune in and learn about the work they're doing to simplify healthcare from across the board. Then we're also welcoming Second Helpings, a local organization transforming lives through the power of food and teaching. All that and more this week on The Edge.
Your audio and video source featuring Indianapolis tech trends, marketing industry champions, and business innovation. This is Edge of Indy. Broadcasting from Edge Media Studios. Let's get today's conversation started.
Good afternoon, Indianapolis. Hey, thanks for joining us. My name's Aaron Sparks. I'm the CEO of Site Strategics and Edge Media Studios. Every week, we are very proud to be able to provide you Edge of Indy. It's a topical show focusing on what's moving and shaking here in Indianapolis, focusing on organizations that are giving back to our local city to make our city a great place to work, live, and visit. So on a regular basis, we're asking you to choose local and choose local often here in Indy. So thanks for joining us. To my right, we've got Brittany Simpson, Outreach and Onboarding Manager of Site Strategics. How are we doing?
I am senile, but thank you.
She's had a bit of a trip.
Yes, I am fresh back from vacation. 3 a.m., so I am exhausted.
Oh, my gosh. At some point in time, if we want to play a betting game from the home studio audience, if you want to actually bet when Brittany's actually going to fall down on her keyboard, we'll take that poll here on the comment threads on our live Facebook feed.
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to introduce to our audience Adam Habig, President and co-founder of Freedom Healthworks. How are you doing today?
Very well, Aaron. Thank you. And thank you, Brittany.
Of course. Are you well rested today?
More so than you. Okay. Yes, thank you.
We could really have some fun and just throw out some random concepts and words that have no connection to what we're talking about, just to make sure that she's dialed in there. Right?
I just hear clicking right now.
This is not good, Britt. This is not good. Oh, Adam, thanks for joining us. Don't mind the oddity that's over here. You're here to tell us about Freedom Healthworks. That's an Indianapolis-based company fueling the rise of direct primary care. Before we get into the specifics of what that is, can you remind us what direct primary care is all about?
Absolutely. And it's a bit of a mundane term for something that we think is really, really exciting. But to unpack that, there are two types of healthcare that we experience, most of us in our lives: primary care versus specialty care. Mm-hmm. Primary care is your family medicine, internal medicine, the docs you see on a regular basis. And really, stats show the only doc that 90% of us need to see in a given year, mm-hmm. right? Then you have the specialists, your surgeons, your different kinds of more episodic treatments that you see cardiologists. So when you unpack the word direct primary care, we're talking about the primary care docs, the frontline physicians that we know and use the most as consumers. Mm-hmm. And when we say direct, we are pioneering, and it's been a concept that's been around for about a decade now, but we are pioneering the large-scale expansion and growth of the idea that you no longer need to work through the traditional barriers and the layers that get in the way within the healthcare system as they've evolved over the years. Mm-hmm. This is direct relationship with a physician where you both are unlimited, essentially, in your contact and your access to that physician. Mm-hmm. You pay that physician directly, so there are no more intermediaries that get in the way. And it really has a threefold effect. And these are the three items that pundits have said are impossible in the American healthcare system. Mm-hmm. They said it cannot be high quality, widely accessible, and affordable. And we say, yes, it can, and it's called direct primary care.
So it's a beautiful thing, and especially for everyone that has just gone through the change of insurance in November. And we understand that on the healthcare.gov network, there's been a huge amount of price increase collectively across the board for the insurance carriers, right?
Absolutely.
So it's been a tough thing, and families are trying to find alternative ways to be able to take care of their family. Right?
Yeah.
But on top of that, avoid the bureaucracy that just seems to be getting in the way of how we need to live.
Yeah, absolutely right.
What are you doing to remove that barrier and making it more cost effective For those of us who need to see a primary care physician.
And
Possibly today.
And we all do.
And can you get me in this afternoon?
If you were seeing one of our physicians, they'd say, yes, we can.
Okay.
And you'd be over there in an hour, right? So what we do, there really isn't, it's sad because health insurance is no longer equated to health care.
Correct.
That's a mind shift, right, within the populace. We have to get over that hump. So today, even though we have expanded health insurance coverage throughout the country, we still have stats that say every year up to a quarter of Americans with insurance will refuse or skip necessary medical treatment. This is care they need to get,
Right.
and they're skipping it. Why? They have insurance because it does not equate to health care. Insurance no longer guarantees that minimum level of health care when you need it, right?
Insurance is not insurance anymore. In all frankness, it's what they're willing to pay.
It's robbery.
That's very true. Well, I won't touch that one, but
I go there.
this does allow. So you asked, and to answer your question, then, if you can remove the frontline physician care from the aegis of insurance and let insurance go back to what it used to be, what it looks like for our auto insurance, our homes, right? It's there to safeguard against a catastrophic, really expensive episode, right? It's not there to really to change your oil or to fill up your gas tank in terms of auto insurance. That's what direct primary care allows insurance to do. So when we look at the landscape and we say, yeah, families are facing these tremendous rate hikes year after year after year. Why? How can we do something about that? And I know we're going to touch on this, but last year testified in front of the General Assembly here, and one of the questions was, what are we going to do about healthcare prices? And I said, health insurance. They asked health insurance prices. Those cannot come down until health care prices come down. What direct primary care does, it lets health care prices, the price of medical goods and services, fall to their natural level. Which, if you've been in a hospital and you've paid $300 for an aspirin or $50 for a bandage, you know that the inflation is tremendous. So again, a little off point, but my point is that when it comes to health insurance and health care, they're interlocked. Direct primary care carves out the primary care piece of that so that insurance can go back to being insurance and the price of those premiums can come down while you still get better care at the primary care level, but you buy it directly from the physician.
It's a bit of a self-writing environment that you're talking about, is that insurance took care of everything, therefore all the costs have just increased exponentially. So what you're introducing into the ecosystem is kind of a reset of what we used to pay for out of pocket to our local physician and allowing healthcare to do what it was supposed to do to begin with.
You're
right?
exactly right, Aaron, with a twist. And with a twist that says someone's called it an historic innovation because it harkens back to the days when you would go in and believe me, there are still physicians practicing today that remember folks that would come in and they would pay if they couldn't pay. I mean, talk about trading a basket of eggs or a pie.
Absolutely.
That's not too far in our rear view. Our doctors that are with us now have the ability to do that again, to perform charity care that they may not otherwise be able to do.
They're completely shackled
in
inside the existing insurance schema that has been foisted on us.
I mean, you ask
they can't move the needle.
You're right, Aaron. You ask them, try to deviate from the Medicare price sheet and see what happens.
Oh, no, absolutely. So Freedom Healthworks actually was created by children of doctors who had some very astute observations about their own parents. Can you actually tell us a little bit about the background of Freedom?
Absolutely. So my parents, both primary care docs here in Indianapolis area, practicing for 30 plus years. They are some of that cohort that can remember accepting a load of firewood or a cherry pie in payment or chicken, right?
Two chickens.
The price has gone up. But they...
Oh, yeah. It's on.
They're some of the most seasoned, experienced physicians, skilled doctors that we have in this country. And they're the ones also, and they're emblematic of what their generation is facing, that are looking for the exits early. They're burned out. They're done. It's not just the docs in that cohort, though. It's also docs that are my age and even younger that have said, this is not what I signed up to do.
Absolutely.
And no one wants to really feel sympathy for physicians. I get that. But at the same time, the practice of medicine today looks vastly different than it did 30 years ago. And a lot of the physicians that signed up for when they went through med school, and you go through that amount of sacrifice and expense, and you come out of med school waiting to serve patients. You're craving finally the payback, right? I get to go serve patients, and you serve insurance companies, you serve hospitals. That's not what they signed up to do. What this model does and why we built this is because we saw this in our own parents, and it mentioned I'm actually I co-founded this with my brother and my sister, and so it's a bit of a personal journey for us as well. But we saw them looking at early retirement, and why they still had the fire in their belly to treat patients to save lives. Their response was, I cannot deal with the paper shuffling. I cannot deal with the hamster wheel that's forced upon me in terms of seeing more and more patients every year. Reimbursements are stagnant. Costs are rising. I'm running myself ragged, and for what?
Gosh, that just speaks volumes.
Yeah,
that they have that passion to care for people, but then they're just getting burnt out on both ends of the candle, and they just can't do it anymore.
They were, and look at their patient base, and this is really, I think it says a lot. They've got a lot of folks who need extra attention. Got a lot of older folks, a lot of Medicare folks. You're not going to see them and practice good medicine in 7.5 minutes or 12 minutes, whatever the national average visit is these days. So we looked at this, and my background is in finance, and I'm an attorney, and I had a couple other businesses that were successful, and I was just leaving one of those and looked at the situation and said, why can't we find a solution that works for you, that cuts out the part of the business of medicine that you don't enjoy, that's really driving you nuts, and get back to just practicing medicine? And they were the inspiration. They had, I don't know how many times I sat through a dinner and they're pounding the table saying, one of these days I'm just going to tell the insurance company, I'm going to tell Medicare, I'm done with it. I'm going to hang a shingle. My patients will pay lower prices. They'll be happier with me. I'll get to practice better medicine. And we said, why don't you? What's holding you back? And they didn't realize that this option, which is really something that was around 30, 40 years ago, is still viable. And I mentioned earlier, Aaron, that this is that model with a twist, because today, as the economy and as consumers have evolved towards more of a subscription economy, we've integrated that subscription-based pricing with the idea of really unlimited access to your physician when you need it, whenever you need it, and also letting the doc and the patient determine things like how long should your visit last. There's no way an insurance company should know that. They're not in the exam room. Under our model, you get as long as you need with your doctor. You get to see him same day, next day, because we know that health issues often can't wait 3 weeks for an appointment.
You can't plan ahead. Yeah.
You can't. And the pricing is completely transparent. So we know healthcare can never be free, but you know exactly what you're going to pay. And most often that is a retainer type monthly price that right now averages between $75 and $100 a month. And anytime you need to go, you get it. Anytime you need somebody to be your advocate, you have somebody that's...
Well, think about that, especially with the HSA accounts, the savings accounts. You're throwing money into this financial vehicle, right? You could literally be providing a guaranteed connection to your doctor, and they can also rely on that type of payment coming to them, so they don't have to scurry around. Right.
Yeah.
This is it's not the beginning, because these models have been around, but there's such a growth towards alternative pricing now and away from the entire insurance structure. I mean, my family is participant of this break. We actually broke away from the healthcare.gov marketplace back in November. We said enough, because we literally got so much increase in premium. That it was not. We were already eyeballing the thing as just evil incarnate for a lot of ways, but whenever the price increase came through, we're done. So we went to different types of healthcare sharing networks, which you're very well aware of, and also looking for primary physicians that have this type of relationship with the families that come in. And you're absolutely right, about $90 a month. There's a subscription, and we have that access to the GP that, for the most part, takes care of all the wellness visits. And then there's certain things that they won't do, but even labs cost $5. Yeah. I'm not quoting prices for the entire network, obviously, but literally, it's such an eye-opening experience, because you're on the outside looking in, going, "What were we doing in that fugue state that all this BS was actually foisted on us year over year over year?" And just be able to break away and be able to see that there are groups that are taking care of. It's almost like you're unplugging from the Matrix. That's what's happening.
I use that analogy.
Now, there he is.
Yeah, you're right.
And all of a sudden you see that you can actually have relationships with your doctor, and you can see them very quickly.
Yeah.
and all of a sudden now you're not. The biggest thing, I mean, you're coming from the perspective of the physician and the physicians that are just demoralized inside this network and disenfranchised. They went into this trying to help, and literally bureaucracy has pushed them out into retirement early. And people are actually leaving the country. Doctors are practicing outside of this country because of what's happened here. So this is the alternative, and this is the counterweight. That's finally there. So I told you before.
I got him all worked up. Look at him; he's so riled up.
I told you. I mean, I had some points to bring up.
And this doesn't only just serve physicians either. This could be a huge benefit to employers. Can you touch on that as well? Because I feel like employers need to know that this is an option.
Absolutely, and employers are involved in our healthcare. It dates back to World War II, and it's become so ingrained that people expect to get their health insurance and at least their health benefits of some sort through an employer. So as employers have experienced the price shocks we all have, sometimes they've managed to avoid some of the worst of the healthcare.gov experiences, right? But they're still socked with year-over-year increases in cost, and at some point that becomes unsustainable. So what we've seen, tremendous number of employers now looking for alternative solutions, just like individuals are. And they come to us and they say, well, if I could scale my insurance correctly and carve out this primary care piece, or if I'm already exposed to that risk through a self-insured type model, what would this look like to fill that gap in terms of my frontline primary care? And so they're looking at this going, wow, we can actually quantify it. We can put a number on it. It's a fixed price per month or per year. And this takes care of all of that primary care that our employees use the most. And not only takes care of it so that we don't have to worry about those claims down the road, it actually reduces the downstream care that's consumed. So these practices have, like I said, a litany of benefits, right? It's more convenient for patients to get in and see their doctor whenever they need it. If they need care remotely and the doctor's on board with that, you can work through some kind of a telemedicine type visit.
That's
right.
An option?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I told
It
you
is
it's
too
updated.
cool. It is
That's
too cool.
awesome.
It's the old model that's been updated, both in terms of its pricing and its technology.
It's a
It's an action.
reboot.
It's a reboot.
Because
It is.
sometimes you can't get out of bed. And what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Use your phone.
Yep.
So-
FaceTime the doc. Bang, right
Why
there.
not? Why not?
I'm sure he doesn't want to see you in that condition, but
They'd much rather have you there than in the office, all things being equal.
That's true.
yes, coughing on their doorknobs
That's
and
true.
such. Yes.
So
You do that regularly, huh?
Not around here.
Thank you.
So the employers, though, they've begun to embrace this in really large numbers because of those benefits. It's a better benefit that they can provide for really less money to their employees.
No, it's a fantastic and very timely emergence here because families, and large families are freaking out. They just don't know where to go, and they can't afford what has happened over the last few years. They just can't. So I applaud you greatly for doing this. And there are a number of networks out there that are also faith-based networks that help in the medical sharing, and it's just fantastic to be able to see the other side of the coin and literally being unplugged from what's been foisted on us. So you're also a participant in lawmaking as well. So you can tell us about the law Freedom Healthworks helped pass in Indiana and what it means to Hoosiers in 2018.
Sure. There are some visionary legislators recognized several years ago. Actually began with some of the faith-based health sharing. Recognized that in order for those types of innovations to really proliferate and grow, you had to proactively remove barriers. And when they did that, and I want to say this was back 2011, 2012, they saw this rapid growth among the health sharing adoption in the state of Indiana. Great alternative to health insurance in a traditional sense. So this was another recognition that if we could remove barriers proactively in terms of growth of direct primary care, we would see an uptick in the growth. And Indiana became, proud to say, I think the 20th or 21st state to pass enabling legislation that really just removed any threat of insurance regulation from these physicians, these practices who employ this type of a model.
Right.
And not that was a threat in Indiana, but other states, there had been attempts by insurance regulators to step in and say, this resembles some form of insurance, so I'm going to get my hands in it. So like I said,
Sounds like them, doesn't it?
yeah, right. So we got to participate with again, some of the legislation, the legislators that were spearheading this effort, testify, help kind of craft this legislation as it passed. And it was one of those rare bipartisan unanimous bills that passed into law. And what that means for the state is that now in the state of Indiana, direct primary care is not and will never be regulated as insurance. And that removes any doubt that a physician might have had or a patient might have had.
Right.
Am I going to run afoul of something in the future because there's still this perceived gray area out there? But that really, I would say this speaks to the level that we're involved in with Freedom Healthworks. We started out and we still focus primarily on launching, sustaining, and helping physicians prosper under this model. We also then, because it's such a relationship that is, there's a fair amount of education that has to occur with consumers to become really acclimated to the model.
Right.
We help consumers, we help individuals and families find and connect with these practices, and we help those relationships succeed as well as the employers. We've just started that in the last probably 2 quarters, working hand in hand with some employers and some folks in the insurance benefits world to bring that benefit online for employers in the state. So we're excited. We talk about Freedom Healthworks. Our mission is to fuel the rise of direct primary care, and that means not simply helping the physicians, but also the consumers and the employers.
Amen. Amen.
Is this an option for people with pre-existing conditions too? This isn't just an option for like the healthiest people in the whole world. If you have, you go to the doctor once every 5 years. What if you have pre-existing stuff?
It's a great question. And the answer is this is maybe more valuable for the folks with pre-existing conditions, with chronic illnesses, than it is for the rest of us. Those of us that are healthy, and I do count myself among those fortunate few, this is a convenience thing. This is I get to go in once a year. If I ever have an issue, I'm going to be seen same day, next day. I can have a telehealth visit or something, right? Recently traveled, got in and just I have a healthcare advocate. My healthcare advocate now says you need these immunizations before you travel to this country. Great, done and done. It's so nice to have someone in your back pocket that is that kind of medical mind, whereas in the past, it's just hard to have that inside one of the mega networks or inside an insurance network. But the people with pre-existing conditions need the most contact with a physician. They're the ones who really need to be seen quarterly, maybe monthly. And this is one of the only models that I've seen that allows that to happen, and not simply a 10-minute flyby visit. This is something where you need to be seen, and it could last a half hour. It could be
seen
a
and
45
heard, probably, yeah.
There are stories that abound of folks who have struggled for years with what they perceived were chronic conditions, only to finally spend a full half hour with their direct primary care doctor and find out it's actually related to something totally in left field, like an allergy or something. And they've been throwing expensive medications at it for years.
And that's the other thing.
Look what you did, Adam.
Short answer, yes.
And that's it, is because the insurance industrial complex literally is self-sustaining. It will promote nothing against the doctors that are still inside the network, but my gosh, the amount of paperwork and the amount of tests that are so darn expensive, and it does get into a space where there's not an alternative and not a way where the doctors can actually cut away and say, you know what, this is what I'm really seeing here. Oh, no. You have to have all this litany of additional factors just to eliminate this, when they can actually go and be able to find an alternate pathway to your health, as opposed to having to have so much red tape they have to go through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We call it practicing medicine by billing code.
That's it.
Honestly,
That's it right there.
When you're working under the insurance-based model, in order to get reimbursed, you have to constrain your medical mind into one of 30,000 billing codes and check the right boxes.
That's it.
And so it's almost a paint by number. Now, how many of us?
That's
right.
Wow.
How many of us are actually, do we adhere to a formulaic paint by number profile? None of us do. We're all individuals.
Nobody in
with
this
our,
room, probably.
I paint outside the lines a lot.
So that's not on the doctors, Aaron. That is what they're forced to do to keep the lights on, and they hate it as much as we do. They really do.
That's what I was referring to. It is such a breath of fresh air to be able to hear this. How many doctors are inside of Freedom?
So at this point, we've got 8 physicians here all around central Indiana.
Cool.
We launched our first pilot practice only in December of 2016. So
wow.
this is very early for us still. We've got Grand Design Zone, and I tell you, we are getting tremendous interest, not just in Indiana, but across the country. And at this point, we have to kind of tell folks in Texas and on the West Coast, okay, hang on, we'll get there, because what we recognized is there was no formulaic approach to this. There was no one who developed a programmatic path for these thousands of doctors who would like to migrate to this model. They'd all figured it out ad hoc.
Right.
And so we said, look, there's a better way to do this if we can refine the best practices and then make that playbook available to doctors that are interested in this model. We're going to see more of them move to this model, which only benefits all the rest of us because consumers then have choice. And we also say this may not be for everybody. We're not saying this has to be our way or the highway. We're simply providing alternatives for consumers out there who say, I don't really like the value I'm getting in the traditional healthcare system.
It's okay.
I want something else.
Yeah, some of them want to be that gelatinous battery that's plugged into the matrix. I guess you
Shots
do.
fired. To connect with those 8 physicians that you mentioned, viewers and listeners can go online to freedomhealthworks.com/people/knowyourdoctor. And I think we can put that up on the screen. There we go. That works too. Just go there and then go where I told you to go.
Absolutely. And you'll be able to find that. We certainly appreciate your time, Adam, and we certainly want the employers out there to also understand that this is not just for individual decisions. Employers can absolutely explore this option for benefit, alternate types of services for their employees, right?
Absolutely. And please use the same method of contact. Get a hold of us if you're interested. If you're even if you just want some more information, perhaps it's not the right time, but the employers we've found, they've sought us out. And when we can sit down and have a conversation with them and they look at the numbers and say, wow, my employees are going to like this benefit better than what they have today.
Yep.
It's going to cost me less. And not only in terms of outlay and premium costs, but I'm going to save money on the back end, especially if I'm exposed to the claims risk, because this is better care. This keeps people out of the hospital, keeps them from the expensive surgeries and the hospitalization. So you put those together, and I think there's a reason why so many employers are reaching out, and certainly we'd love to hear from more.
What's your sweet spot for employers? Like who is traditionally coming to you looking for this kind of thing?
So if you're an employer, typically less than 500 employees, because there just aren't a lot of options for those folks.
Right.
So anybody from your 2-person shop up to that call it 500 person threshold. Beyond that, not that we wouldn't enjoy talking to you, but there are more options for the larger
You'll still
employers.
talk to anyone who calls, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we're finding a lot of those folks too that they employ near-site clinics or things like that, look at this and they say, well, this is a better way to really provide this benefit to my staff.
Excellent. I'd love to see you back in here a year from now and talk about the success of 2018. I see nothing but growth for Freedom, and you're blazing the trails for physicians, and they need to be in your space. And as you're educating them, and as you're setting the stability of where they can go without having to be ad hoc and learning as they go. I mean, you're setting what the best standards are for how to practice in this post-insurance world. Or at least a alternative to just feeding the beast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's time healthcare comes into the 21st century, and you look at the way it's practiced today, the way it's delivered today. That's what I hope we can, in a year, talk about how we've affected that change. Excellent.
Well, Adam, thank you so much. We're absolutely going to, my family's going to absolutely check out Freedom Healthworks as well, because it is, we've taking the plunge, and we're looking for those primary physicians as well to make sure that we not only reach out to them, but we want to subsidize that belief system, because they're cutting edge on what should be. I did that.
I got it right away.
of what is a self-writing environment here. This was what was woefully needed as a counterbalance to insurance. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Make sure you go check them out at freedomhealthworks.com, on Twitter, Freedom DPC, and on Facebook, Freedom Healthworks. Fantastic branding. If there's anything that we can do for you, you let us know, all right?
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Brittany, I've enjoyed it.
Thanks,
More
Adam.
than welcome. More than welcome. All right. Without Paul Poteet today, we're kind of at a loss. Oh, no. We actually have Brittany. She's ready to actually give you the weather.
I was born to do this.
Maybe not for today, because she may actually be reading the weather out of Arizona.
Right. My body is here, but my mind is in Sedona.
All right. So without further ado, let's see what we got here.
Okay, so essentially we have a mixed bag of goods here, friends. Colder tonight, milder on Friday and Saturday, rain showers likely on Saturday, switching to light snow Saturday night and Sunday. You can see there's some temp swings here, but it's all in all not too bad. I'm going to say green light on this.
You sure?
Yep, I'm good. This looks pretty good to me.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we're certainly going to want to have Paul back next week, but you did fill in for him.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Thank you for letting me live my dream.
All right. We'll be back here soon with Second Helpings. Well, this was Site Strategics investment in the Indianapolis community. We wanted to really help NX3 shine. It's a fantastic opportunity to be able to bring Site Strategics and everything that we've been able to grow to be here over the last few years, and then plug into the community, be able to help, be able to support a number of brands that are here. But more importantly, really, it's a gathering for our team to really just get out of the office and just have some fun together. A lot of times we're working so hard that we don't see a lot of the tech startup community, and this is exactly why we moved downtown, is to be able to have that connection, and this was a great platform to be able to really roll out what we do. Last year was the year of pivot. I mean, we left the South Side, knew that we had to be downtown in Indianapolis just because of the technology scene. And on top of that, we tripled our footprint, our square foot footprint downtown to make room for our live cast studio, as well as be able to expand into a much larger collaborative space for all our employees. Our role in the tech community is going to take off like a rocket ship. It honestly is, we look to help give lift to so many companies with our digital marketing tactics, as well as our studio, to be able to paint the picture, tell the why story of so many of these organizations. We've got a great team of videographers, be able to, podcast technology that is surpassing almost everybody in the country, and I'm really proud of this convergence of skills and technology to help tell the story for all of these other companies. We have organically grown, and we are now bringing a great number of really sharp people into our organization, because it's time to do that now. And with everything that we've been able to invest in from skill sets and technology, we are now really able to tell our own story, as well as so many other companies. And I got a lot of pride in who is part of this organization now. I'm proud of each and every individual that works for Site Strategics. There's no way I could have ever done this without a good deal of blessings and a good deal of really caring people to get us to this degree. And I'm just so excited about what we're about to do. The next couple of years is just going to be fantastic.
So Edge of Indy is a weekly Facebook Live broadcast where we interact with some of Indy's best and brightest movers and shakers, promote our internal brands, so Site Strategics and Edge of Indy itself. Additionally, we wanted to really connect Indianapolis and form connections with people we might eventually want to do business with. You know, small mom and pop businesses or restaurants, startup companies, small to medium-sized businesses, some of Indy's bigger organizations. You know, there's a lot of good things happening, but a lot of times you're either missing it or you're so tied up in your day-to-day that you don't know what's going on. And so this is just a quick and easy way to learn about awesome things going on in our city. Edge of Indy is less than a year old, and within that year we've had over 155,000 Facebook Live views, over 1,000 individual show shares and show likes. And then in terms of show downloads of the podcast itself, there have been over 4,000 of those. So what I want to say about Paul Poteet is that he brings definitely a new energy to the show. It's kind of a dad energy. He and Aaron like to swap the dad jokes and make it like a dad versus dad thing. And then you've got this blonde girl in the middle, this millennial that's just like, oh, dad. And it's always nice to have him. He brings a really fun energy, and it's always good to know what weather lies ahead. We have a lot of big plans for what lies ahead. We are looking for sponsors, so to get companies engaged and kind of getting their backing and support in the community. Maybe one day have more than one show a week. That's something to build towards. We are looking at having like on-site live shows on location other places. So taking it out of the studio, packing it up, and going to our guests and interviewing them there. You should definitely tune in every week because we've got some great guests who really need some support here in Indianapolis. Just fun and a light, easy way to learn about what's going on. Tune in for some great, happy, lively, fun conversations.
We're back now.
Still back.
So if you're actually interested in becoming a sponsor of Edge of Indy, just let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you about how we can benefit your brand. All right. I want to talk about a brand that's absolutely incredibly helpful for Indianapolis. That is Second Helpings. And we have Jennifer Vigran, who is the CEO of that said organization. Jennifer, thanks for coming on board.
Thanks for having me today.
You are more than welcome, more than welcome. You're here to tell us about Second Helpings, and I know you're a busy lady, but can you tell us what it is you find folks are doing over at Second Helpings?
Well, at Second Helpings, we do three things. Everything at Second Helpings starts with food rescue. We go to wholesalers and retailers. We collect overstocks, damaged cases, things that are nearing expiration, good nutritious food that otherwise would go to waste. And we turn that food into more than 4,000 meals a day that go to senior centers, shelters, and children's programs, all free of charge.
You should get a high five just for that. Good
Absolutely.
job. High five just for number one.
Careful,
give more
careful
high
about
fives in the
how
world.
she may fall down. I mean, she's living in an ether right now. So
I'm glad, I'm glad we connected. That was impressive. But I mean,
you're just trying to hold on with a
Hold
guest.
on to the table, yes. It's sort of a high five for the whole city because those meals go to 85 other not-for-profit agencies. And it helps making sure that kids who might not get dinner that night are getting a good, nutritious meal at the end of the day. It also helps organizations financially because if you look at places like Wheeler Mission or Julian Center, it's a 6-figure impact on their budget. Those are meals they don't have to go buy and prepare. But at the same time, we also have a culinary job training program that helps unemployed and underemployed adults build meaningful careers in the food service industry.
That is fantastic.
I think so, too.
Absolutely.
your partner agency list is literally a mile long. I want to mention some of them.
Did you print it out?
This is not the entire. We don't have enough paper for that.
Okay, good.
So I want to touch on some of them. You provide meals for 7 Boys and Girls Club locations, the Damien Center, our neighbor Dove Recovery House, Dress for Success, our good friends, the Horizon House, Wheeler Mission Ministries, and like infinity more. Tell us about how people can become a partner, because I want that list to be longer for you.
Oh, I'd love for that list to be longer. And that list goes into not just Marion County, it goes into Hamilton County, it goes into Boone County. And we also have pantries that we work with and send food to. Just today, we started working with a pantry in Madison County. So we're reaching out further and further into central Indiana. But all of our partners have certain things in common. They're all 501c3s or something equivalent. They're serving a population that needs our help. And they have someone trained in food safety on site. We help them work that through. They also need to be certified by their county health department. So it's a process.
Seems like a good idea.
It's a real food safety is job
Yes.
one. That
Yes.
is the most important thing we do. And so we have a wonderful team at Second Helpings who, if there's an organization that says, we'd really either have a meal program and we'd like to build that up, or we think bringing a meal program in could really help our community, our neighborhood. It could help our programs. All they have to do is call us. We have a great team that would be happy to work with them and figure out how we can best be of service.
Awesome.
That is awesome. So again, to look at some of the key points of the organization, not only does our organization accept and utilize donated, perishable, and overstocked food, right, for nutritious meals for thousands of hungry children and adults every day, but you also train unemployed and underemployed adults for meaningful careers in the culinary industry. So Tell us what this training means for those who are part of it, and does it give a fresh start to their career?
That's exactly what it does. So for some people, it's needing to get that basic training so that they can start a career in the food service industry. For others, it's perhaps getting that fresh start. You know, our students all come to us with barriers.
Yep.
It could be a history of homelessness, a history of substance abuse, incarceration. We've seen just about everything.
Right.
But they all come prepared to make a meaningful change in their lives for themselves and their families. Excellent. We work on life skills. It's not just about cooking. It's about what do employers expect. You know, if you think about it, what's important, it's showing up on time every day. It's knowing how to solve problems productively in the workplace, working as a team. We work on all those things. But, of course, we also work on the cooking skills and the job-seeking skills for our students. What I love is not just watching our students at graduation and watching that transformation, not just for them, but for their families, but it's when they come back. And it's when they come back to hire another graduate. Or, yes, it's wonderful. Their careers progress, and suddenly they're in a position to go hire someone. And where do they come?
A full circle moment. Yeah.
It is full circle.
That's not gratifying at all.
I have the best job.
Yeah, you really do.
Actually, we argue it back at the office is who has the best job in the building. Not everybody has that, but we do. We all, if you look at our staff, most of them started as volunteers. And that is just part of the culture of the organization. But the other thing I love about when our students come back is when they tell us the stories, not of their successes in the workplace, which they're very proud of. It's what they can now do for other people. It's the student who comes back and says, you know what? I went to lunch with a friend today, and I paid. I'm going to lose her here.
She's been gone for a while. It's a remnant of Brittany in the seat here.
It's the student who comes back and says, I could buy Christmas presents for my kids. I didn't have to ask my parents for help.
And the things that people take for granted,
Yes.
right, are monumental whenever you're in those spaces. And these steps towards normalcy, I mean, it cannot be underrated. I mean, the people that you're serving are able to, and you're an anchor point for starting a whole new life.
Yes, and the beauty is this is an industry where there are opportunities. That, if you think about it, restaurants don't care where you went to college or whether you went to college. They care about whether you can put that food on the plate the same way every day. Is it going to taste great and look great every time? And that's the skill that really matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So great. You also have some amazing donors, both on an individual level and a corporate level. So I wondered if you wanted to give any of them a shout out, and then also kind of explain if people want to become a sponsor as well.
Absolutely. So we do. We're really blessed to have a wide range of support from throughout our community. Of course, we always need more, but I will tell you that most of our donors are individual donors like you and me. Wow. It is people
That's even better.
It is people who drive this organization, not just financially, but also every day there are 50 volunteers in the building. So this organization does not run without that public support. But there are some really important corporate donors who keep Second Helpings running. So one of them, I have to start with our food donors, places like U.S. Foods and Cisco and Trader Joe's stores and Kroger stores. They are tremendous food donors. 2.4 million pounds of food a year come through our system. And that is critical because it keeps us from having to buy food for the hunger relief program. We can make that food and deliver the food for $1.05 a serving.
That's essential. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So actually the return on our community's investment is extraordinary. So it costs us $1.05 a serving. We end up saving this community more than $5 million a year in food costs. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, on a budget of about $2.4 million.
That's like a drop the mic moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't
drop the mic.
Please don't. Please don't actually touch it.
That's amazing.
And many of those food donors are also financial donors as well. Kroger is one of our biggest sponsors. We are also very, very grateful to places like the Pacers, who are hosting our upcoming fundraiser in March. See, I have to put a plug in for that.
Yes, of course.
This is
March
your
14th,
time.
March 14th. Corks and Forks at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. The Pacers are hosting us now for the 5th year in a row, and we will bring restaurants and wines and craft beers and mixologists. You got to have the mixologists.
Brittany, there's
So
wine
true.
there. There's wine there.
Hotel Tango will be there waiting for you.
They're going to be a guest on our show soon.
Excellent, excellent. But you'll see it's a great event and a wonderful opportunity for everyone to celebrate the great wine and food and the mixologists from throughout our city and the craft beers that have really taken a huge role in our city.
Are the Pacers going to be there? Like the Pacers?
I don't know, but I'll see what
You know
I
what
can
you should do? Put a call out to Victor Oladipo.
Victor
Oladipo.
Come to our event. There is no game
My
that
fellow
night.
IU grad. You should. I can make
Victor.
that happen. Okay, hold on a second.
Counting on you.
Okay, I can.
I'm counting
I
you.
can bother him.
All right.
You're doing a show right now. Don't do that. Bother them after the show.
No, I'm just putting it out there now in case he's watching.
Okay. If Victor doesn't show up, it's on Brittany.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
Just-
and Victor,
just
I'm
saying.
sorry. Here she comes. So it's going to happen. So yeah, that event. You also have some Serve Safe training dates in March,
Yes,
right?
We
so,
do. We offer ServSafe, which is the food safety supervision certification
Mm-hmm.
that's required for every employer who does public food service. And we do that not just for all of our graduates, but also for the public as well. So those dates are available online.
wow.
You can register for one of our classes online.
And then you touched on the culinary job training opportunity and that whole thing, but can you tell us a little bit more about that and how
So these
people
are
might
these are
get
some of the
involved?
grads right
That's
Look
one of
how
our
cute.
graduating classes.
Look at their cute
yes.
hats. Look how cute they are.
Yes. It's called a toque, by the way.
A toque?
A toque, yes. The chef's hat is called a toque, and they receive that at graduation. We have a class graduating, as a matter of fact, on this Friday. About once a month, we have a class that graduates from
Really?
Second Helpings.
Good
every
job,
month.
grads. I'm proud of you.
And they go to work in every hotel, restaurant, caterer, you name it, throughout this city. Some of them have become entrepreneurs and started their own businesses. It's really fun to watch and see how they progress and grow.
It's amazing. I mean, participants actually get financial literacy training and resume and job interviewing training as well. So you're not only, like we talked about,
You gotta
it's
do
not
it all.
You got to do it. You got to know the soft
Yeah.
skills, but you also have to know how to actually present yourself inside to be marketable, right? So you're doing that type of training.
Give yourself the edge.
Absolutely. You have to do it all. And we are really blessed because we have industry professionals who come in and help with that. It's not just doing a mock interview practice with someone off the street.
Your friend.
Exactly. Your mom. No, it's not that. It's at bringing in industry professionals who can give them real world experiences and who can talk to them about what a career's really like. What's it like to go work in Eskenazi Health in their food service department? What kind of opportunities come from that? They're learning from real professionals throughout the community. Oh, and by the way,
Yes.
when they finish, they have 5 credit hours at Ivy Tech. If they want to continue their education in the culinary arts, they have a running start.
So you got a foot in the door.
You do. You have a foot in the door,
That's great.
literally.
I love that.
You can also have a hire a graduate effort. Yeah, that's what you also do, right?
Yes. So we are always reaching out to new employers. So if this is certainly an industry that we know is always hiring. That's part of what makes this work. So any employers in the community who aren't already partnered with us, all they need to do is give us a call. We'll be happy to connect them with our graduates and make sure that their career opportunities are something that our graduates are aware of.
And then you touched on Corks and Forks. What
Yes.
is that date again? And then how can people get tickets?
That is March 14th. That's a Wednesday night, so you don't have anything else to do that night. No. It's an easy night to come.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yes, anything else to do. They're coming to Corks and Forks. I know,
Absolutely.
that's right. They're coming to Corks and Forks. And one of the things I love is because it's a Wednesday night, not one of the super busy nights in the restaurant industry, you'll see the chefs themselves coming in to serve.
Gosh, that's nice.
To serve everyone. You can interact with the chefs, some of the great chefs from around
Some more
our city.
inside knowledge.
But tickets are available online at secondhelpings.org.
Perfect.
So we want to make sure that we also give a shout out to the volunteers.
Oh, got a shout out to the volunteers. So, as I mentioned, 50 volunteers a day.
Yep.
Many of them are people.
Who was there today? Can you name them all?
I started as a Wednesday volunteer, so I know a lot of those people. Some of them actually, we started as volunteers together 17 years ago. So it's No, I can't name them. I have to admit, I cannot name
Put her
everybody
on
who
the
was there
spot,
today.
Britt. Why don't you just?
Because we had special groups that come in. So every week there are often employer groups
Right.
that will come in and spend an afternoon chopping in our kitchen. And if you think about it, you learn a lot about people when you chop onions together.
Yeah, you do.
You learn a
You
lot.
laugh, you cry.
You laugh, you cry.
It was, yes.
You try not to cut your
So
fingers
it is-
off. Yeah.
It is a great team building exercise and we don't make everybody chop onions.
Gosh,
Okay?
talk about a team building experience.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. It's
everybody
fun.
stand here and cut onions together and let's
It's
see what
like
happens.
For
working-
5 hours.
No. It's sort of like working in your friend's kitchen,
Yeah.
when you cook together.
Yep.
It's a great team building, and it's a great way for us to introduce a lot of new people to the organization and to the work that we do in the community.
Excellent. Well, so how can listeners actually get involved in that capacity as well?
So once again, you can call us or you can go to our website, www.secondhelpings.org. You'll find information there all about volunteering, all about ways that you can participate in Corks and Forks, and so many other ways in our community.
Excellent. All righty. So around the horn of some of the contact points for Second Helpings. That's on the website, secondhelpings.org, Facebook, Second Helpings, Twitter, Second Helpings, and Instagram, Second Helpings.
Very good. Second helping.
4 for 4.
Good job.
444, we're all over the place.
That can be tough
Literally,
to do. Yeah.
we are all over the place.
Yep. All the things, all the places.
One of the things, and I have to say, one of the things that I have always loved about being involved in Second Helpings is that when you talked about how long that list is of the agencies we serve, that means that the work we do is really part of the missions of all of those organizations. And it's a real privilege to be part of it. So, but it doesn't happen without this whole community. So thank you for having us here.
Oh, you're more than
course.
welcome. So again, how long has Second Helpings been doing this for Indianapolis?
Well, this is the year, 20 years as of April of this year. We are celebrating our 20th anniversary. Just looking at the numbers, and that's the 29 million pounds of food that we have kept out of landfills and dumpsters. Good, nutritious food that has that otherwise would have gone to waste.
One more year and you're almost old enough to drink.
Yeah.
Almost. Then we can go to Corks and Forks, right?
Well, let us know how we can help you. This is certainly a not only a laudable effort, but it's a mainstay of Indianapolis, and we appreciate the investment of time for all the volunteers, and just to be able to be around for 20 years demonstrates leadership in giving back to Indianapolis. So thank you so much. Let us know how we can help you in the future, please.
Well, thank you for having us here. And I have to say, there's always something that everyone can do for Second Helpings, whether it is donating financially, being part of our volunteer corps. And it's often one of the very best things you can do is tell somebody else about Second Helpings and introduce them to the mission. And that's exactly what we're doing today. So thank you.
You're more than welcome. All right. So for a wrap up here, we want to make sure that you check out Freedom Healthworks and look at what's happening in the insurance and medical environment, and lift up those physicians that are trying to do something different for you. And you absolutely need to check out Second Helpings. This is a fantastic opportunity to give back. And we are always asking our listeners to choose local, but also give local. So, I mean, for Indianapolis, we really want to see volunteerism coming over to Second Helpings and making sure that you give back to your community. This is Aaron Sparks, as well as Brittany Simpson, saying adieu, and we'll see you next week on Edge of Indy. Thank you, and bye-bye.